In today's video, we're going to continue our prospect report series where we do an in-depth analysis on the complete prospect pool as well as the 2018 NHL Draft selections. We have a special guest joining us today to discuss the Detroit Red Wings, and that's coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams, so if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. So as I mentioned off the top, today we're doing an in-depth analysis of the Detroit Red Wings prospect pool here. We're going to take a look at all their current prospects in their system, as well as their 2018 draft selections. Now I think we could certainly say that the Red Wings had an excellent draft this year. They picked up some great prospects, and some of those guys are leaping towards the top to being some of their top prospects in the system. As I mentioned as well, we have a special guest joining us today. You've seen him on this channel before. You're likely familiar with this channel. You're likely watching and subscribed to him as well. Goes by OhNyquist. Obviously, he's a big Red Wings fan. Covers all things hockey on his team. Puts out lots of great content. So I'm certainly going to recommend you check him out if you're not already familiar with him. He'll be joining us here in a few moments to discuss the top 3 selections for the Red Wings 2018 draft. Before we take a look at the 2018 NHL Draft, let's take a look at some of the other top prospects already in their system from years prior. Now let's get started here with Evgeny Svechnikov. Now most of you are likely familiar with his very high-profile brother, Andrei Svechnikov. Andrei went number 2 overall in the 2018 Draft to the Carolina Hurricanes. Evgeny Svechnikov was also a first-round selection, didn't go quite as high. He was the Red Wings' first-round pick in 2015, went number 19 overall. Evgeny played his major junior hockey in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League for the Cape Breton Screaming Eagles. Evgeny Svechnikov now has 2 years of pro hockey under his belt. His first year at the American Hockey League level, things went rather well. Got into over 70 games, scored 20 goals, 50 points. Things were progressing nicely. After that, things kind of regressed last year, only getting into about 50 games, putting up 23 points. So obviously things took a step back for Svechnikov. Listening to comments from the coaching staff, it looks as though they really would like him to work on his play away from the puck, as well as taking undisciplined penalties. I still think longer term here, Svechnikov has a lot of potential. I don't think he'll be quite the starter that his brother Andrei will likely turn out to be, but I do think that there is quite a possibility he will be a regular NHL player, but it's probably going to be another year or 2 away. Next up, I want to discuss their 2016 first-round selection, and that's defenseman Dennis Cholowski. Now, I really think Cholowski has the raw potential here to be a top 4 defenseman in the NHL with a tremendous offensive upside. He played his junior hockey in the WHL. In his final season, he appeared in 69 games and put up 65 points. So there's obviously a lot of offense there. He more than likely goes into his first pro season playing in the American Hockey League, where he'll have a chance to prove himself. But I mean, Cholowski is a great mobile, puck-moving defenseman. He gets a great first pass or break out of the zone. He can join the rush, put up lots of points. Obviously, he's going to have to work a little bit on his defensive game. He's got pretty good height at 6'1", but he's a little bit thin. He's only about 165, 170 pounds. So he's definitely going to want to get a little bit stronger, especially to work on his defensive game. But I do think there's a lot of potential here for Cholowski and a couple more seasons to possibly turn out to be a pretty solid top 4D for the Red Wings. Next up, I want to discuss Red Wings prospect Tyler Bertuzzi. Now, I still consider Bertuzzi a prospect as he's yet to play a full NHL season, but he did get into 48 games last year with Detroit and put up 24 points, had a pretty solid ending to the year, and he really started to emerge as a player the Red Wings could count on. Now, Bertuzzi was originally drafted in the 2nd round back in 2013. He played his junior hockey in the OHL for Guelph, had some tremendous offensive seasons, putting up 98 points in his last year of junior. He's had a couple years since then to play in the American Hockey League and really develop his game here, and I really can see Tyler Bertuzzi developing into a long-term top 9 for sure, possibly even top 6 forward for the Red Wings. During his time in Detroit last year, he really seemed like he fit in quite well, and I can continue to see him to grow and develop into a much more bigger role with the Red Wings here moving forward. Next up, I want to discuss 2017 first-round selection of Michael Rasmussen. Now, Rasmussen's an absolutely huge guy, 6'6", 220 pounds. For a guy his size, though, he does get around the ice relatively well. Pretty smooth skater. A lot of guys his size sometimes do struggle with their speed and their skating, but Rasmussen has that down pat pretty well. Rasmussen played his junior hockey in the Western Hockey League for the Tri-City Americans, putting up a point per game last year, had a pretty solid offensive season, but he's also known as a pretty solid, respectable two-way player as well. His defensive play is relatively strong, so I do see him projecting to be like a middle six type of center iceman, probably a number 2, number 3 type of guy. It kind of just really depends on how much his offensive game translates to the NHL. As I mentioned, his 5-on-5 play needs to improve a little bit on the offensive side of the puck, so depending on how that goes will depend on where he slots in the lineup. I do see him getting an opportunity with the Red Wings this season for sure, depending on how it goes early on in the season. He'll either stick with the club or maybe go down to the American Hockey League for some more seasoning. As we know, the Red Wings are quite fond of giving their prospects plenty of time and letting them develop into minor leagues before bringing them up to be full-time NHL players. Now we're going to hand it over to OhNyquist. He's going to take a look at some of the top selections here from the 2018 NHL Draft.
How's everybody doing? My name is OhNyquist. I run a hockey YouTube channel that posts daily NHL content, so if you guys want to check that out, you can. Before I get into this, huge thanks to Mike from Top Shelf Hockey for allowing me to come on and talk about the Detroit Red Wings prospects. I'm going to be touching on Filip Zadina, Jared McIsaac, and Joseph Veleno in today's video because I'm most familiar with these guys. I've seen Zadina and McIsaac play over 15 times live here in Halifax, and I've seen Joseph Veleno come to Halifax when he played for St. John and Drummondville, so I have a good idea of how he plays as well. So with that being said, let's get right into the video. Starting off with Jared McIsaac. Now, Jared McIsaac is a stay-at-home defenseman. He's not flashy by any means. He's 6'1", 196 pounds, and I think by the time he's NHL ready, which I don't think will be this year, I think it'll be next year or the year after. I think he'll be up there around 210. And this guy is a heavy hitter, and I think he's going to be a perfect second pairing shutdown guy for the Red Wings. And I really liked how he played on the power play for Halifax as well. It seems like he just has that perfect hockey IQ for a defenseman. He's very patient. He looked like he was going to pass, and then he'd look off that pass, take a shot through traffic, find the net. He just really is patient, and he's just a good, solid all-around defender who doesn't really try to do all of that much. He just gets the job done, and I'm very excited because I think that is what Detroit needed. They needed a shutdown defenseman, a young, good defense prospect. They also have Dennis Cholowski. I decided not to cover him in this one, but ultimately I think Jared McIsaac could have more upside than Cholowski. It'll be interesting to see how that works out, but I think that pairing in the future could be very good for the Detroit Red Wings. But as far as when I think McIsaac will make the team, I think he's still 2 years out. It's going to be interesting to see, though. I think he might get a chance to make it in the coming years because Detroit's defense core is weak. If he has a good training camp in preseason, you never know what could happen. In the 2017-18 season for the Halifax Mooseheads, he played in 65 games and had 9 goals and 38 assists for 47 points. So he put up a good amount of points, most of those coming on the power play. He has a heavy shot, and like I said, I once seen this guy open ice hit someone. I believe it was against St. John, and he absolutely destroyed him. And that is really what caught my eye. I was like, who is this guy? And I'm very happy that Detroit was able to draft him. I think he's going to be a great defensive prospect for them to have in the system, and I definitely think he will be NHL ready in a couple of years. And I think, not really sure if he'll be a top 2 pairing guy, but definitely a solid stay-at-home top 4 defenseman in the future, and that really is what Detroit needed. Next is Joe Veleno, who really did fall down in the draft. He was projected to go top 15 in pretty much every mock draft that I've seen. He was the round 1 pick 30 by the Detroit Red Wings, the pick that they got from the Vegas Golden Knights, and I'm very happy that we were able to get Veleno with the 30th pick. I think that could be an absolute steal. I've seen videos of him in Detroit Red Wings training camp, and he's a really good skater, and he's like a lankier guy, but it's not like he's going to get knocked off the puck easy. He's 6'1", 195 pounds, and this is a guy I could see maybe getting a crack at the lineup this year. Probably not a guy who's going to stay in the lineup through the majority of the season, but I definitely think if he has a solid preseason, he could get a crack at it, maybe sign an entry-level deal, play a couple games, and then get sent back down to junior. This guy was granted exceptional status to play in the QMJHL when he was just 15 years old, so that tells you how good this guy is. He is unreal when he does play out to his full potential. He had a little bit of a rough start to the season with St. John. Eventually, he was traded over to Drummondville, and I think that move helped Joseph Veleno because he played his best hockey this year in Drummondville. I actually seen him come to Halifax for St. John and for Drummondville, and I noticed him a lot more in the second half of the season playing for Drummondville. 64 games combined between the two teams in the 2017 season, 22 goals and 57 assists for 79 points. Joe Veleno is a guy who I never really see him being a superstar in the league, but I think he is going to be a top 6 center when it's all said and done, and I definitely think he's a guy who's going to be potential of 65 to 70 points, and I'm very excited for when he does make the full roster and become a full-time NHLer. I'm not sure when that's going to be. I'd say maybe in 2 more years, just because Detroit does have a lot of depth at the center position right now, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with Veleno, but all in all, I'm very excited, and I'm glad Detroit was able to get him with such a late draft pick. Now, saving the best for last, that is Filip Zadina. I still can't get over how he fell to 6th. I was so surprised when Arizona took Barrett Hayton instead of Filip Zadina. I'm a big fan of drafting best overall player, and I think that is what Detroit did. Going into the draft, Ken Holland said they're going to draft a defenseman, but when Filip Zadina dropped to 6th, they just couldn't pass up. They had him ranked 3rd on their draft board, and getting him at 6, I think this is a guy Detroit needs. We've never really been able to be so excited over a draft pick. I mean, Dylan Larkin coming in, we didn't expect him to be good, but it was like a pleasant surprise. But Filip Zadina, we have expectations for this guy, and he really can be that goal-scoring winger, that powerhouse, that juggernaut that we needed on this team right now. And he was the 6th overall pick, like I said, 6 foot tall, 196 pounds. He has a good frame. In my opinion, this guy is NHL ready, and I think we're going to see him in the Detroit Red Wings lineup throughout the majority of the season next year. And in my opinion, he's a guy who could compete for a Calder Trophy. I think he's capable of 30 goals right away, especially if he plays with a guy like Dylan Larkin, who had 50 assists last year. In the 2017 season for the Halifax Mooseheads, he played in 57 games and had 44 goals and 38 assists for 82 points, and a lot of people started to notice guy at the World Juniors when he started scoring so many goals for the Czech Republic. Everyone remembers that amazing goal against Team Canada. Him and Martin Necas played very well together, and I'm just all in all so excited because this is a guy who I've seen play live multiple times. I have an autograph from him, I've talked to him, and I'm very excited for him to be in the Detroit Red Wings organization because he is a guy who could be a game changer for us and really speed up our rebuild process. So all in all, these 3 prospects I think give us Detroit Red Wings fans a lot to look forward to, and that's something that we haven't really had as we've been more of an older team, never really getting high-end draft picks in the past couple of seasons, and this rebuild is kind of fresh, and I definitely think that these prospects and the draft that we had could speed up the process a little bit. So that is going to do it for my part in this video. Once again, thank you so much to Mike for allowing me to come on. If you guys are not already, please make sure to subscribe to him. He does amazing videos. I'm sure you guys know, as many of you watching this are already subscribed to him. Great content. If you're not subscribed, make sure to. And make sure to drop a like on this video as well. If you guys want to check me out, you can. Thanks for joining me today talking about the Detroit Red Wings prospects. The future definitely does look bright right now. And I'll pass it back over to Mike.
Great job to OhNyquist. Appreciate your thoughts and analysis on these players. Again, if you haven't checked out his channel, it's linked down below in the description. You're going to want to check it out and consider subscribing. He puts out great NHL content. Now we're going to take a look at the remainder of the 2018 NHL Draft selections. I'm going to put up a graphic here full screen so you can see the full summary of their draft selections, and we'll go through the remainder. In the second round, number 33rd overall, they took a right winger from Sweden, Jonathan Berggren. In the third round, number 67th overall, they took a defenseman from the London Knights, Alec Regula. Also in the third round, number 81 overall, they took Seth Barton, who's a defenseman from the BCHL. Again in the third round, the third selection of this round, number 84 overall, they took a goalie out of Sweden, Jesper Eliasson. In the fourth round, number 98 overall, they took Ryan O'Reilly, a right winger from the USHL. Round number 160 overall, they took Victor Brattström, who's another Swedish goaltender. In their final selection, in the 7th round, number 191, they took a Finnish center iceman, Otto Kivenmäki. So obviously, I think the Red Wings had a pretty solid NHL draft here. They made good use of all the picks they had. They took a wide variety of players in all positions. Hopefully one of these goalies they selected out of Sweden will turn out to be a potential goalie of the future. I know that is an area in their prospect pool that is kind of lacking right now, is the goaltending depth. So hopefully that works out for them. If you're new to the channel here, I hope you consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams, and there's plenty of content here for all hockey fans to enjoy. So if you're new, hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, hit the like button as well. As always, thank you very much for watching, everybody. We'll catch you next time.